Hello and welcome to Backlinking, the PKM podcast. In today's podcast episode, we are discussing, or I am discussing something that I have talked about before, but it is the introduction of more analog stuff into my productivity system. I filmed a video yesterday, which will be out in a week or two, about my new product, or not necessarily new, but I did an experiment where I introduced more analog tools instead of just having digital ones, just to test that out. And in this episode I wanted to talk about my experiences with that and why I am continuing to stick with it. I mentioned a couple of things in the video, but I wanted to go more in depth, and what I wanted to start with is why have I ended up here? And the main reason, as I've mentioned many times before, is one, I felt like I was struggling to think. Everything was so frictionless to the point where I almost never had to think about anything. I never had to try to remember something, which at the end made me feel like I struggle to think, I struggle to remember, I struggle to discuss things. And this has been something I've experienced over time, and it isn't just that easy to switch into note-taking, switch your note-taking into analog tools and everything will be fixed. It isn't that, but I wanted to do some changes or make some changes to my system to add a little bit more friction and live a little slower, because I also work in social media marketing and my whole life is social media. I go to work, I post on social media, I come home, I do these YouTube videos and post more on social media. There is algorithms, there is things changing all the time, there is trends you need to follow, and sometimes it feels like everything is just moving too fast, and adding notebooks actually made it feel like it was going a little slower, or at least at some times during my day I could slow down and write things, because when I type faster than I'm able to think, while when I write I actually have to slow down and I have to think about the things I'm writing. It is also something with the tactile feeling of writing in a notebook. So that was the first point. The second reason was that I feel like it is so much easier to just pick up my notebook, open them up, and go through them. I struggle with that in note-taking applications. I'm actually not sure why. If I had figured out why, I would probably be able to fix it, but I have struggled with that for as long as I could remember. I will never go back and check out my notes, and I often also feel like I'm over capturing, because highlighting on my Kobo and having it go to Readwise, then go into a note-taking app is just so easy that I often feel like I highlight way too much. I have way too much stuff in my note-taking applications, whereas with a notebook, it takes time to write things down, so I often choose just the most important things. And there are, of course, things I lose with that method as well. Sometimes there are important things that I probably should have written down, or important quotes that I should have written down, but I don't have my notebook and I can't be bothered to pick it up, so I will just not do it. So there are things I have to sacrifice as well in order to get this notebook system to work. That does not mean that I don't use analog digital tools at all. I actually use a couple. So we use a few at work, but those aren't things that I've chosen. So we use a CRM tool, we use a digital to-do list. There are a few things that I use, a calendar. So a few things I use, but also in my personal life I use a couple of things. So I use a calendar, just basic calendar. I use Proton Calendar because it is linked to my email. I have like right now I have a couple of podcast guests coming, I have a few meetings, things like that. Don't necessarily go into the notebook because things change quickly in this digital age. So I need to be able to like follow up on the changes. That's why I have a digital calendar. It is much quicker to change things there because there are some aspects of your life that will be fast anyways. You can't slow them down. So in my case, I've chosen to slow down the things I can because I know that there are so many things that I can slow down. So that's why I have gone ahead and I've just kept my calendar. I have a digital note-taking app as well, and that is for two reasons. Some things just belong in a digital tool. Like I won't write down a full URL into my notebook. That sounds wild to do. So I need something that can store URLs, that can function as a read it later application. And also at some point, like I will need to share some of my thoughts, some of my ideas, and uh, like I work remotely from the rest of the team at work, and I also work remotely whenever I've hired freelancers for this YouTube video. And generally, like I don't work with people sitting next to me, and even if I did, I would not pass them my notebook to for them to check out and go through. It is much easier to share things with a digital tool, so I think that is also a reason to keep your digital tools. There are just some things that work better in digital, and also like if I'm at a point where I know that this like first draft of an idea where I just have scribbled a bunch of different stuff, I might do some of it in my notebook, but a lot of it I do on a digital tool because it is easier to just remove things, add things, much easier to play around with. So it isn't necessarily about digital or analog in my case, and I don't think it should be for anyone else either. It is more about where can I add more friction to make my system work better for me, to improve my thinking, to generally just make me better at the things I want to be better at, and also live a life that is closer to my ideal life. So for some people, that might mean like efficiency all the way, doing more and just getting more stuff out there, like uh, doing more tasks at work in order to get a promotion. Just as an example, you might actually need more digital tools because you're chasing efficiency. For others like me, thinking is the most important part. Like it isn't necessarily about how much I get out. There is of course a threshold I need to be able to reach, but like it isn't necessarily good to post, like especially at work, post like 5-6 times each week if all of them are bad. Rather, I need to be able to like think and improve my writing skills, improve the way I talk, the way I am in front of a camera, things like that. So it depends on what your needs are. Some people need more digital tools to be more efficient, others need more analog tools to like slow them down. It isn't one or the other, it is using the right tools for your ideal life and the life you are currently living. So that has probably been the journey I've been on, like figuring out like what do I need, what do I want, and how does my ideal life look. And as someone who is really into fountain pens, notebooks, I and also leather covers, I want to use my notebooks a lot more, and I think that is like the most important thing that I just want to use my notebook a lot more. It is that simple, and I have a lot of benefits from it that also align with the way I want to live my life and the life I want. Like I don't want to be chasing efficiency forever. I want to try to like think through things, live a little slower. I will still continue to put out a lot of content on YouTube, but that has a whole nother story behind it. There are two main reasons. One, productivity applications change a lot. Two, there just isn't enough content out there. Like, one of the reasons I started this channel, podcast, and everything around it was just that I felt like when I'd watched Tool Finder and a couple of other YouTube channels, I felt like I've like watched everything out there about productivity applications. There just wasn't enough content for me personally, so I built this channel because one, I was lonely and no one to discuss these things with. Two, I I just felt like there wasn't enough content for me personally. I needed more, and I know that for most people that isn't true. Most people just watch one or two videos, not 10 or 15. But that's beside the point. I generally want to live slower in my life, think more through things, and just live slower. I think that's the point, and that is where my notebooks come in. So the system I've chosen for my notebooks is that I have a bunch of notebooks, which brings me to something I might discuss later. I'm actually working on that video, or podcast episode. Is the idea of like we have like through time, and if we go 100, 200, even 8, 900 years back, people used notebooks. But where we use applications, we try to find one application that can do it all. Whereas with notebooks, over time, like people have used multiple different notebooks. You have had things like a commonplace book, a Zibaldone, and a bunch of other types of notebooks that people have used for different reasons. And also, people had multiple different commonplace books. Like a commonplace book isn't just a place you just write a bunch of things down. It is a commonplace. So I have a commonplace book for quotes, for example, and I don't necessarily write that much thoughts quotes. It is more like project oriented. What I use my notebooks for, like projects, tasks, and just random personal ideas, more like a journaling type of notebook, where I think about like ideas I've had or ideas others have had, more like that, rather than just writing down what other people have said, which is what you do in a commonplace book. I do more of a journaling style, but like people have used multiple different notebooks for specific use cases. Why aren't we like that with note-taking apps? That has just been something I have had on my mind. But back to how I'm using my notebooks. As I said, project oriented. So I have one for like daily tasks and projects, which I will switch up a little because I want one for just projects and one for like daily planning. So I am going to purchase a daily planner. I'm not sure which one yet, but I will buy a daily planner where I can do like calendar blocking, analog calendar blocking. I just want to test that out and see if it works. I also want to introduce more like creative journaling and more of like a hobby style journaling with stickers and like images and things like that. Just more as a creative outlet because I feel like I need more of a creative outlet. So I will do that. Then I will have my project notebook, which is just projects. I do project stuff, project task, project notes. I use it for meeting notes sometimes as well, or not necessarily meeting notes. I just write down the most important things from a meeting, which is probably like, depending on the length of the meeting, but like 3 to 5 lines for an hour meeting, just the most important stuff. So I do that inside of my notebook, project notebooks. I do my like YouTube video ideas, podcast video ideas, and generally like social media ideas I put into a notebook as well, at least at first before I move them. I found that, as I said, it is much easier for me to go back and find like older ideas in a notebook compared to a digital tool. Often in my digital tools, I write down an idea and I do not come back to it like forever, and a year later that idea isn't viable anymore. So that has also been something I've been doing in my notebook. I have one for like, as I said, commonplacing quotes. I have one for poetry. I try to write some poetry sometimes. I also have one called my thinking book. That is where I think through my ideas or think through, like, I have a podcast guest coming on the Mindful Productivity podcast next week, and I did a lot of mind mapping, a lot of like notes, a lot of connecting stuff in there before I jumped into a digital tool, and I continued there and I wrote down the questions for that guest. So that is my thinking book. I also have a weekly like to-do list where I put things that are further in the future. I have one like bullet journal style to-do list for just work, and that is a highly like personal thing I do because I don't necessarily believe in separating work and personal. But one thing that is important to me is that I try to like film stuff around my productivity methods and the way I think about productivity. And I can't film work stuff, but I have no problem sharing most of my personal stuff. So that is why I've divided those two, so I can like share how I am actually doing task management, because I do the same method for both. I just can't share the work tasks. So I have one for that. I have one catch-all notebook where I just write down everything that comes into my mind. I have one pocket journal where I just journal. I try to do a page a day at work just to get things out before I start working. The last thing I use is another pocket notebook where I do weekly stats for this YouTube channel and all of my other social medias. I found that when I change note-taking apps, I tend to lose all of those stats, like follower counts, things like that, over time, because I've done it since early last year, and I have lost a lot of them when I changed note-taking apps. So I am doing it analog now, and I think that is how I use all of my different notebooks. And I think that covers it for today's podcast episode. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the idea behind digital versus analog and why I think both is the answer, and it all depends on your needs and wants, just like everything else in life and in productivity. I just wanted to thank you for watching or listening to today's podcast episode. Thank you again. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. I will try to get to them as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching or listening.